Monster Baby by Diane Curtis Reagan. Okay. One Saturday morning, Mr. Oliver padded to the door of his farmhouse to fetch the newspaper. But instead of the news, he found a basket covered with a blanket that seemed to be wiggling. Wah, wah, wah. Mrs. Oliver came running.
"Glory, husband, someone left a baby on our doorstep."
Please give our dear baby a good home. We cannot take care of him, read the note.
"Well, of course we'll give you a good home,"
cooed Mrs. Oliver. We will, said her husband.
"Our wish has come true. After all these years, we've been blessed with a child."
All I wanted, Mr. Oliver said, was the morning news. Mrs. Oliver's hand shook as she pulled away the blanket. The baby was a tiny thing, sucking one fist, looking like any other newborn, except for the fur, the tail, the pointy teeth, and the purple horns. Oh, sputtered Mr. Oliver. It's not a baby, it's a baby monster. His wife lifted the bundle and cradled it in her arms. Well, I think he's the most beautiful baby in the world, and he's all ours, she sang.
Tra-la-la-la-la.
All ours. Mrs. Oliver spent the morning sewing diapers for Ollie. Mr. Oliver fashioned a lemon crate into a cradle until he could build a proper one. They notified Sheriff Grady, but no one seemed to be looking for a purple-horned baby with fur, pointy teeth, and a tail. Sheriff Grady rode out to the farmhouse to officially proclaim the Olivers foster parents. Mrs. Oliver was thrilled. Mr. Oliver wondered why no one seemed to notice that his new son didn't look like any other baby in town. At noon, Mrs. Oliver made jammies for Ollie. She carried them to the pantry, which Mr. Oliver had turned into a nursery.
"Glory, husband, come quickly."
Mr. Oliver did not like being disturbed while pruning his berries, but he rushed to the nursery to see what all the fuss was about.
"Our baby has grown,"
she said. Mr. Oliver waited, but his wife did not comment on how odd it all seemed, so he fetched a wheelbarrow to fashion into a larger cradle. By nap time, Ollie had outgrown the wheelbarrow as well as a second pair of jammies. By dinner, he was crawling. By bedtime, he was walking.
"Can you talk yet?"
cooed Mrs. Oliver.
"Can you say ma, ma?"
Of course I can, dear mother, Ollie replied. I can say father, too. The next morning, Ollie dressed for church in a pair of his father's rolled-up trousers and a baggy shirt. This is our foster son, Mr. Oliver told the staring congregation. Sunday afternoon, Mrs. Oliver taught Ollie his letters and how to count to 10. Sunday evening, Ollie read the newspaper quietly to himself. Mr. Oliver was delighted by how smart and quick the boy seemed, although he did not like sharing the newspaper. By Monday, Ollie had outgrown his father's clothes. Mrs. Oliver sewed new clothes out of bedsheets. Mr. Oliver found pencils and crayons. His wife packed a lunch. They took Ollie to school and enrolled him in kindergarten. "Goodness," cried Miss Pratt. "He's much too big for kindergarten. How old is he?" 3 days, said Mr. Oliver, who could not help feeling a bit proud of his monster foster son. During the morning, Ollie learned colors, shapes, and how to sing the ABC song. At recess, he played with his classmates, or tried to, just like I'm trying to turn the pages of the book. After school, Miss Pratt invited the Olivers to a special meeting about Ollie. The principal, the nurse, and the janitor came too.
"What did our son do?"
asked the worried Mrs. Oliver.
"Did he chew gum? Did he color on the wall? Was he making silly noises during nap time?"
"No," said Miss Pratt. "He was promoted to first grade." Mr. and Mrs. Oliver hugged Ollie as best they could, and even though it was time to go home and check on the honeybees, Mr. Oliver took the family on a picnic by the lake to celebrate at Lakeside Park. Ollie loved playing with the children at the park, but sometimes he forgot how much bigger he was. Ollie sighed as he sipped a bucket of pink lemonade. Being the biggest is no fun at all. Oh, but your father was once the biggest child on the playground, said Mrs. Oliver, as she buttered a biscuit for Ollie. That's how he caught my eye. He was always helping the smaller children. Right there. After that, Ollie was careful to be gentle with loving children. That evening, Mr. Oliver piled hay in the barn. Mrs. Oliver made a comfy bed with lots of quilts and pillows. May I read you a bedtime story, she whispered, about a yellow ducky? No, thank you, Ollie whispered back. I'm reading the encyclopedia in Latin. By Friday, Ollie had been promoted to 5th grade. The next weekend, he made the winning touchdown in the big game, and he graduated from high school. 3 days later, he was awarded a degree in agriculture by the local university. Ollie spent the mornings helping his father farm. Mr. Oliver taught him how to prune berries and gather honey from the bees. Ollie was good with the berries, but not so good with the bees. In afternoons, Mr. Oliver taught his son how to take top-notch naps. In evenings, Ollie cooked dinner with the recipes that he'd clipped. Afterwards, the family sat by the fire, sipping tea and listening to stories and poems Ollie had written. Sometimes he made up 3-act plays to entertain his parents. Ollie played every part himself. On Ollie's 1-month birthday, the Olivers officially adopted him. They threw a welcome to the family party. Sheriff Grady came along with Miss Pratt, Ollie's classmates, the principal, the nurse, the janitor, the entire congregation, all the children from the park, and the Ellsworth family who had just moved into the farm down the road. Ollie liked their daughter, Ellie, right away. In fact, Ollie and Ellie were the life of the party, and secretly, Ollie hoped that someday he would be just as big as Ellie. The end.